It began with a single sentence, a quiet yet earth-shattering message delivered by Prince William just 1 minute ago. The words trembled, not from uncertainty, but from the weight of unimaginable truth. For centuries, the British monarchy has survived war, scandal, and revolution. But nothing, not even Diana's death, prepared the world for this tragic update about Princess Catherine. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. When Prince William emerged from behind the gilded doors of Clarence House, his face was pale, drawn not by illness, but by revelation. The world had been waiting, clinging to rumors and whispers, but what came next sent shockwaves through every corner of the globe. The prince stood alone, no entourage, no flashing cameras allowed. Just silence, until his voice, quiet but cracking, broke through. "It's time the world knew." That was all it took, one sentence, and the world stopped breathing. In an era of information overload, what followed was eerie silence. The royal press office, usually a machine of polished statements and rehearsed soundbites, went dark. Their social channels frozen. No clarifications, no elaborations, just William's cryptic words hanging heavy in the air like a storm cloud about to burst. For weeks leading up to this, the media had been in a frenzy. Princess Catherine, beloved by millions, had not been seen in public for 78 days. Not at an event, not in a tabloid, not even in a blurry long-lens photograph. She had simply vanished. Initially, there were gentle explanations, scheduled rest, private family time, undisclosed engagements. But as days turned to weeks, those excuses rang hollow. The public wasn't just concerned, they were suspicious. The monarchy, so adept at controlling narrative, was losing its grip. And when William finally stepped forward, the carefully curated silence exploded into worldwide hysteria. Why now? Why speak at all? Was it compassion or pressure? And more terrifying still, why had there been a total media blackout just moments before he spoke? News networks reported brief interruptions. Live feeds cut out. Anchors silenced mid-sentence. Phones went dark across press rooms. It was as if the entire system had been momentarily unplugged to deliver one unfiltered message. But who ordered it and why? Within minutes, the world responded. Some sobbed openly, others screamed in disbelief. Social media fractured under the weight of emotion and conspiracy. Candlelight vigils sparked spontaneously across Europe. In Australia, mourners gathered outside the British consulate before even hearing the full truth. And in the United States, headlines didn't just report the news. They declared war on the silence. Where is Kate? What is William hiding? The palace crumbles. And yet, amidst the chaos, one truth remained unspoken. William hadn't said what happened. He had only promised that the time had come to know. A confession without a crime. A thunderclap with no lightning yet. What did he mean? What did the monarchy know all along? And why had they fought so hard to keep her out of sight? But this wasn't just a royal statement, it was the explosive ignition of secrets buried beneath polished smiles and palace walls. She was the most photographed woman in the world. And then she disappeared. No official events. No candid sightings. No statements. For 78 days, Catherine vanished. But the silence wasn't just strange, it was strategic. In early autumn, Catherine dazzled at a high-profile charity gala, her smile radiating warmth, her presence commanding the room. That night, the cameras flashed, the headlines praised, and the world moved on, expecting, as always, to see her again in days. But days became weeks, then weeks became months, and soon, even the most loyal royal watchers were forced to confront a chilling possibility. Something was terribly wrong. The world had watched her walk into that glittering ballroom, but no one ever saw her walk out of it, not truly. What followed was a deafening silence. Paparazzi, who once banked on daily shots of the princess, reported nothing. Stakeouts outside Kensington, Anmer Hall, even the private family estate in Balmoral all yielded the same result. Absence. Not avoidance, not retreat, absence. Behind palace walls, aides refused to comment. Reputable outlets received identical statements, word-for-word denials of anything being amiss. But these weren't just PR evasions, they were barricades. One seasoned royal reporter, who had covered Diana's final days, described the behavior as a freeze, unlike anything I've ever seen. Then came the leak. A single image, grainy and cropped, showing what appeared to be Catherine in a hospital bed. Her face pale, eyes closed. It surfaced briefly on a fringe news site before vanishing. The image was pulled within minutes. Threats of legal action followed. But the damage was done. The illusion cracked. Suddenly, speculation wasn't just rumor, it was necessary. Some claimed she was ill. Others whispered about an accident. But what caught experts' attention was the pattern, the methodical strategy of erasure. The monarchy, they said, had done this before. Decades ago, when royal heirs suffered breakdowns or illnesses that didn't suit the public image, they were tucked away, their suffering hidden under titles and protocol. Historians drew chilling parallels, not only to distant ancestors, but to more recent figures, names the public barely remembered because they were designed not to. Catherine's disappearance, they argued, wasn't new. It was a revival of the oldest royal tactic in the book, containment. And then came the phrase dropped in a hushed phone call from a former palace aide to an investigative journalist. Internal royal lockdown. The term sent shivers through the newsroom. It suggested not just absence, but isolation. Not just concealment, but command. Catherine wasn't retreating. She was being silenced. Behind closed doors, protected from the public, or perhaps the public protected from her. But the mystery of her vanishing act was only the beginning, because the truth was even darker than absence. Was Princess Catherine hiding an illness, or was the palace hiding her? Sources now confirm that symptoms began months ago, during a royal tour. But what no one knew was how far the illness had spread, and how hard they tried to conceal it. The unraveling began quietly, long before the world noticed she was gone. During a diplomatic visit overseas, close aides reported that Catherine appeared fatigued, disoriented, and unsteady, far from her poised public image. At first, it was dismissed as exhaustion, the toll of royal duties. But whispers began. And 2 months before William's announcement, she reportedly collapsed in a private royal residence, out of the public eye and beyond the reach of press. The incident was not logged. No ambulance was called. Palace doctors were summoned through an internal line, one used only in the most confidential circumstances. And then, nothing. No official record. No mention in internal schedules. Just silence. Meticulously preserved. Behind that silence, a darker truth festered. Medical reports had flagged inconsistencies, symptoms that didn't align with stress or fatigue. Specialists were reportedly denied access, recommendations ignored. The pressure from senior courtiers, insiders say, was overwhelming. We cannot afford another Diana. And so, under the heavy cloak of royal protocol, Catherine was misdiagnosed. Or worse, deliberately undiagnosed. Sources suggest the firm's medical advisors were bound by NDAs so strict, even family members weren't given full access to her condition. One doctor, later dismissed, revealed that his notes were seized upon termination. He never saw her again. Meanwhile, the public saw images seemingly normal, polished photos released to media outlets. But now we know those images were altered. Subtle enhancements masked weight loss, pale skin, and visible signs of deterioration. Lighting adjusted, angles manipulated. One particularly scrutinized photo and event at Windsor was confirmed to have been digitally modified to conceal swelling in her face and a tremor in her left hand. The deception wasn't sloppy, it was masterful, and most viewers never questioned it, because who would? The princess always looked perfect. Yet this wasn't new. History has shown us, the royal family has long treated illness as weakness. From King George III's mental decline, buried under euphemisms, to more recent attempts to downplay serious health issues, the Crown has always placed image above transparency. But Catherine's case was different. It wasn't just silence, it was suppression. And then came the note. Discovered among her personal belongings by a housekeeper reportedly reassigned days later, it was handwritten and folded neatly between pages of a book. Just one sentence. "I don't want them to see me like this." The ink was smudged. The words shook. It wasn't a request, it was resignation. She knew she was being erased, piece by piece, behind the walls she once called home. The woman who once stood tall beside the future king was being reduced to shadows. Yet while the palace worked to hide her condition, another war was brewing, this one within the family itself. What happens when the future king declares war on the institution he was born to uphold? Behind closed doors, Prince William raged against the firm. And his greatest battle wasn't for the throne, it was for his wife's life. The breaking point didn't come with the silence, it came with the lies. When William discovered the extent to which his wife's illness had been concealed, even from him, his fury wasn't loud, it was seismic. He confronted his father, King Charles, in a private council meeting once meant for state matters. But there were no discussions of trade, diplomacy, or succession that day. Only one demand rang through the corridors of power. "Tell the truth, or I will." The words struck not just with defiance, but with desperation. For weeks, William had watched Catherine deteriorate in guarded isolation. Royal advisors urged patience, telling him that public exposure would only inflame speculation. But speculation was already a wildfire, and the palace was pouring fuel. Witnesses to the meeting described it as volcanic. William stood firm, his voice sharp, his eyes rimmed red, while Charles, flanked by Queen Camilla and the most senior members of the firm, remained composed, calculating. Camilla reportedly intervened with an icy warning. "There are duties above emotion, William. You must remember that." To which he responded with words that would shake the very spine of the monarchy. "If she dies in silence, you all answer for it." That sentence didn't just silence the room, it fractured it. Isolated, with no allies inside the palace walls, William found himself staring down a system older than his name, older than any bond of marriage or blood. In a moment of radical defiance, he threatened what no heir had dared utter in centuries. He would walk away. He would renounce his role, the crown, the destiny carved for him since birth, if it meant being complicit in a lie that kept Catherine invisible. It was more than rebellion, it was sacrilege, and it terrified them. But this wasn't the beginning of William's resistance. Hidden in a drawer in his private study were letters from Diana, old, ink-stained pages she'd written for her sons to read as adults. In them, she warned of loyalty becoming a prison and power turning love into leverage. She described the palace as a velvet cage where truth was sacrificed for optics. Reading those words in the echo of Catherine's suffering wasn't just painful, it was prophetic. They didn't guide him, they provoked him. And through it all, Catherine, frail but lucid, begged him not to fight. "Don't battle them for me," she said. "Not if it breaks you." But it already had. William's resolve wasn't born of revenge, it was survival. He saw history repeating itself, a beloved woman slipping into shadow while the palace polished its image. And this time, he wasn't going to watch in silence, not again. But while William fought for truth, another figure moved in silence, one whose return would shake the monarchy to its knees. When all hope seemed lost, a ghost from the royal past returned. Prince Harry, long exiled and estranged, arrived at Heathrow under a cloak of secrecy. But he wasn't here to grieve. He was here to expose. The arrival was not scheduled. No diplomatic convoy, no photographers tipped off. Just a single name on a restricted flight manifest flagged the moment it landed. Within minutes, MI5 operatives were dispatched, not to arrest, but to contain. The prince, who had once walked away from it all, had now returned uninvited, unannounced, and entirely unafraid. And he came alone. Meghan remained in California, her absence not born of distance, but of protection. Harry reportedly told her, "This isn't your war. Not this one." Those closest to him say his voice trembled not from fear, but from fury that had been simmering for years. Within hours, he was inside Kensington, shielded by William's personal security detail against the wishes of senior palace officials. The two brothers, long divided by oceans and accusations, met in secret, under the cover of midnight. What began in silence erupted into something raw, something unfiltered. William, hardened by betrayal, asked why he had come. Harry, face drawn and eyes burning, gave him just 6 words. They tried the same with Mum. It wasn't a theory, it was confirmation, and the evidence was terrifying. Encrypted messages between Meghan and Catherine, sent over a private server, had survived deletion attempts. In them, Catherine spoke of pressure, isolation, and an overwhelming sense that decisions were being made for her, not with her. "They say it's for optics, but I feel like I'm being buried," she wrote. Meghan, ever cautious, had saved the correspondence screenshots, voice notes, and even a short clip of a call where Catherine whispered, "If anything happens to me, tell Harry, he'll understand." And he did, because he'd seen it before. The brothers weren't just unearthing a crisis, they were reopening an old wound. Diana's face, her voice, her cries for help. It wasn't déjà vu, it was repetition. And the institution that once turned its back on their mother was now doing it again. William, who had once vowed never to become his father, now stood at the edge of the same abyss Charles had once allowed to consume his wife. But this time, it wouldn't end in silence. For the first time in years, William and Harry aligned, not as princes, not as public figures, but as sons, as husbands, as men with nothing left to lose. A plan began to take shape, carefully constructed, strategically timed, one that would pierce the armor of royal secrecy and put the truth where it had always belonged, in the hands of the people. And just as the brothers prepared to go public, a forbidden document surfaced, one that would change royal history forever. Locked in a safe beneath Kensington Palace for over 2 decades, a letter from Princess Diana was never meant to be found. But when it was unearthed, its message was undeniable, and its warning terrifyingly precise. It should have remained buried, tucked away in a locked drawer, sealed and forgotten, like so many inconvenient truths hidden beneath royal velvet. But fate, or something far more deliberate, brought it to light. As preparations began for a commemorative exhibit honoring Diana's legacy, a royal archivist stumbled upon a weathered envelope, unmarked, yellowing at the edges. Inside was a letter. 8 pages, handwritten, every word trembling with urgency. At first glance, it seemed like a mother's private journal, but as the archivist read deeper, the tone shifted, becoming frantic, prophetic, almost chilling, the date stamped across the top, 2 weeks before her fatal crash in Paris. The content, a prediction that would stop Prince William cold. "They'll come for her like they came for me." The sentence bled off the page, but it was the name that followed Catherine, written in deliberate, future tense, that turned the document from curiosity to crisis. Diana had never met Catherine. She couldn't have known her. And yet, in this hidden letter, she described her not by name but by destiny, the one who walks beside the crown but refuses to be ruled by it. She warned of a sickness used as silence, and a brother divided, until grief unites them. The language was poetic, but the implications were surgical. Diana had seen what was coming, not just for herself, but for the woman who would one day suffer the same fate. The letter was brought to William in secret, handed to him in the early hours of the morning before a scheduled briefing. He didn't speak for hours. Locked inside the private chapel, he read and reread his mother's handwriting until the ink blurred behind tears. Those close to him said it changed something in him, hardened a conviction, shattered any remaining illusion that the crown would ever protect its own. This wasn't paranoia, it was prophecy, and it had unfolded exactly as she said. The public was never told. The palace buried the discovery under a smokescreen of curatorial error. But William had made his choice. The truth would no longer be held hostage behind palace walls. And yet, he would soon learn that prophecy carried a price. Because, as the world braced for revelation, the monarchy prepared for retaliation. The letter set the stage, but the palace was about to deliver its most brutal performance yet. Forget crowns and bloodlines. The real monarchy isn't ruled by kings or queens, but by those behind the curtain. As William and Harry prepare to go public, a secret council within the firm activates the contingency plan. Silence them or destroy them. The enemy wasn't the press, it wasn't Parliament, it wasn't even the king. It was something far older, far quieter, and infinitely more dangerous. Deep within the monarchy exists a cabal of influence, known only by whispers, the Grey Network. They are not listed on official rosters, nor do they appear in portraits. But their presence is undeniable. Comprised of senior palace advisors, aristocratic financiers, and legacy power brokers whose fortunes predate the Windsor name itself, this shadow elite does not serve the crown they command it. And when the brothers moved to speak, this network moved to stop them. Leaked emails from internal palace servers, briefly published by an anonymous source before vanishing, exposed deliberate coordination with major broadcasting entities. Entire news cycles were rewritten. Segments on Catherine's health were replaced with fluff pieces about fashion. Archive footage was recut to portray harmony. Behind the scenes, advisors were scrambling. Catherine's official title, the one that would someday make her queen consort, was being reconsidered under the guise of public image. It wasn't a punishment, it was a message. Disappear quietly or be erased formally. Meanwhile, William was summoned for a private conversation with two senior courtiers. The BBC had offered a sit-down interview, but the terms were clear: no mention of Diana's letter, no reference to Catherine's condition beyond a temporary rest, and absolute denial of any internal conflict. William refused. They offered a draft statement, tailored to his voice, fabricated in his name. Harry, still in London, faced his own quiet assault. Surveillance photos, grainy, invasive, were leaked to tabloids. Images of him in his hotel room, moments meant to be private, were repackaged as evidence of instability. The message was cruelly familiar. If you won't shut up, we will shame you. One anonymous note was slipped under his door. No return address, just a printed line. They have done worse to family before. He didn't need to guess who sent it. Or why. The pressure campaign escalated. Calls from unnamed numbers. Unmarked vehicles parked outside Meghan's California estate. Legal threats masked as routine audits. The machine was no longer hiding. It was hunting. And still, the brothers did not retreat. Every move they made was tracked. Every silence from the palace now screamed complicity. And yet, amid the panic, neither William nor Harry flinched, because if the crown was going to wage war, they were finally ready to answer. And just when it seemed the war for truth was lost, the world was blindsided by a final, devastating revelation. She knew. Long before the press releases and photo ops, Catherine knew she wouldn't survive this. But what she left behind wasn't just a goodbye, it was a message to the world about love, silence, and the price of wearing a crown. In the final weeks, when the palace insisted she was recovering and tabloids speculated about tropical retreats and secret clinics, Catherine was preparing something very different. A single recording, no team, no spin, just her, a camera, and the truth. The video was quietly filmed in her private quarters, dated 3 weeks before the public would learn of her passing. There were no rehearsals, no edits, just a raw, fragile woman who still carried herself like a queen. Through tear-filled eyes and a trembling voice, she smiled. She thanked the British people. She thanked the mothers, the daughters, the quiet souls who had written letters she could never answer. She thanked her children not with titles, but with names. George, Charlotte, Louis. Never be afraid of your voice. It's stronger than you know. Around her neck, barely visible, was a piece of history, Diana's sapphire brooch, a hidden tribute, not meant to draw attention but to send a signal. A mother honoring a mother. A silent alliance between two women who had both been swallowed by the same machine. In the recording, She never speaks of the palace directly, but her words say everything. If truth costs me everything, let it, but don't let silence win. Please don't let it win. She pauses, visibly gathering herself. Then, with a whisper that feels like both surrender and defiance, she ends the message with, "Tell them I tried." The video was shown only once, in the presence of her immediate family. No press, no announcement. William, stoic until that moment, reportedly fell to his knees, repeating through sobs, "She never stopped protecting us." The recording was saved on a secure drive. Hours later, it was gone. No trace, no backup. When questioned, Palace IT claimed a corruption error, but no one believed it. The timing was too perfect, the vanishing too clean, and yet those who saw it never forgot it. The memory of her voice, her courage, her aching humanity etched into their bones like scripture. Her goodbye wasn't meant for headlines, it was meant for history. A final act of resistance in a life that had become a slow, quiet rebellion. She had been silenced by power, hidden by tradition, reduced to a symbol. But in that message, she became something else, something eternal. Not just a princess, not just a wife, but a woman who, in her final breath, chose truth over legacy. But even in death, her voice sparked something unstoppable, one final twist the palace couldn't contain. Catherine's death wasn't the end, it was the spark. Across the nation, protests erupted. Across the world, questions mounted. Could a crown built on silence still stand? Or had the people's queen changed the monarchy forever? What began as quiet mourning spiraled into something no one, especially the palace, was prepared for. At first, it was flowers, candles, handwritten notes placed delicately along the gates of Buckingham Palace. But by the third day, those gates weren't symbols of reverence anymore. They were barricades. Protesters swelled into the millions, not with anger at fate, but at those who had manipulated it. They weren't just grieving Catherine, they were demanding accountability, and for the first time in decades, the royal institution faced not a scandal, but a reckoning. Signs read "Justice for Catherine" and "Truth, not titles." People chanted not just her name, but William's. Some to support him, others to question him. Parliament, under mounting pressure, was forced to hold an emergency session addressing monarchical interference in medical ethics. The words themselves were historic, never before uttered on record, never dared, even in whispers. But the evidence was now public, and so was the fury. Across social media, videos circulated of doctors, former staff, and even minor royals hinting at what many now saw as a cover-up. And then came the moment no one could explain, and no one could ignore. A photograph. Leaked, grainy, yet instantly viral. Prince George, just a child, standing beside his father outside Kensington. In his hand, a folded letter, identical in appearance to the one Catherine had left behind. The caption was handwritten on the back and partially visible through the thin paper. "Don't let the silence win." The image shattered any illusion that this was just another chapter in royal history. It had become generational. The crown wasn't just being questioned, it was being challenged. But the tremor turned to an earthquake when a secret audio file surfaced online. An unedited recording, verified, untouched. A senior royal advisor, in what was believed to be a private conversation, stated clearly, "We had to manage her absence. The truth would have dismantled everything." Headlines declared, "Admitted deception." Hashtags flooded platforms. Even members of the House of Lords broke protocol to demand a full-scale inquiry. And at the centre of it all, silent, was William. He made no public statements, no interviews, but he was seen just once visiting Althorpe. Alone. No cameras permitted, no speeches. Just a man kneeling before the grave of his mother, hands trembling as he laid down a single white rose. Witnesses said he whispered, "It's over," or just beginning. The monarchy stood at a crossroads, stripped of its certainty, stripped of its control. And yet, for the first time in living memory, The public didn't look to the throne for direction. They looked to the woman who had never sought power, yet whose suffering had shattered generations of silence. Catherine's voice, once stifled behind palace walls, had become a movement, a reckoning, a revolution in pearls and heartbreak. Because sometimes, the most powerful legacy isn't the crown you wear, but the silence you break. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.